Throughout European folklore, there have been tales of seducing spirits, charming and beautiful female spirits whose magical allure make them irresistible to any and all men. They go by many names in many different countries and come in many sizes and shapes, all of them easy on the eyes. So, for the handsome young man living in medieval times, back when folklore spirits were most active, it seems, what sort of supernatural seductresses exactly would he need to dodge on an average day? Well, let's find out. Imagine, if you will, my friends, that you are a handsome rogue, the most eligible bachelor in all of medieval Scotland. Everywhere you go, across the length and breadth of the British Isles, the local maidens are all too ready to cast a flirtatious glance your way, enthralled as they are by your devilishly charming smile and your finely chiseled physique. So, what is a handsome rogue to do with such a wealth of options available to you? Well, it turns out that all the lovely young maidens in Britain are just the tip of the iceberg, in fact. Our young man has other options, you see, because even if our hero decides to duck into the local forest just to take a break from the amorous advances of young ladies, our hero might have his solitary hike interrupted by a vision of otherworldly beauty. For in Britain, the fairies dwell in the wild places. They are dispersed throughout all the forests and hills in this mysterious land. In British folklore, the world of fairies is one of both benevolence and mischief. There are ancient tales, in fact, of seductive fairies, who use their beauty and allure to entrap men. These fairies have been known to entice men into trysts of supernatural delight, occasionally abducting a particularly lush young gentleman for the purpose of a fairy marriage, whisking them away to the fairy realm where they'll live in wedded fairy tale bliss for what might feel like an eternity, or might in fact be an eternity. Very human hybrid children are not unheard of in these cases, so take care that amorous fairy eyes aren't watching you if you happen to stumble upon a fairy mushroom ring in some mysteriously vibrant secluded clearing somewhere in a magically serene forest, for they have a taste for handsome young stallions like you, and don't seem averse to bearing a child or two. So, if our hero prefers to keep his options open, and so tears himself away from the charms of the fairy girls, hiding until nightfall in the local abandoned village, he still is not safe from lovesick females. Because, in Scotland, the Baobhan is a rather sinister, spectral, and vampiric seductress, known to attempt seduction to any suitably desirable young man that comes within sight of its haunts. It's true, the Baobhan is an undead monstrosity, and so has more interest in draining the life force, not to mention devouring all the flesh and blood from her young lovers more than anything else. However, that doesn't mean she's averse to a little lovemaking, Black Widow style, before her meal, especially if presented with a particularly delectable slab of meat, like our handsome rogue. Fleeing from the rather toxic relationship which the love-struck Baobhan is offering him, what could our poor hero do to escape all this female attention? Get out of Britain, of course, as it's clearly no place for any self-respecting, chaste young man. Commandeering a medieval curragh, or seafaring vessel, our hero makes for Denmark. Gliding across the heaving waves, he's feeling blissfully serene in the calm and flirtation-free waters of the North Sea. But wait, are they actually flirtation-free? For, beneath those mysterious waters, European folklore abounds with tales of captivating sirens known to tempt men with their allure. The mermaids, with the tails of fish but the upper bodies of beautiful women, were not considered mere fairy tales to medieval Europeans. They were a very real danger. While not known for sharing the baby fever of the fairy women. They could just as readily attract male admirers with their feminine charms. However, just a little less skilled, it seems, at relationship building, they had an unfortunate tendency to simply drown their love interests the moment they lured them into their watery homes. And so, as he sails the seas, our hero might just encounter a ravishingly sultry mermaid who uses her siren song and fetching physical features to persuade him into a romantic rendezvous under the sea. Valiant and pure, however, our hero turns a blind eye to her voluptuous voice and lands upon the shores of Denmark. Fleeing now to the Danish forest, he has, unfortunately, gone from the frying pan into the fire. For Denmark is the home of the famous Elves. Even today, everyone knows there's little beauty as beautiful as that of an elven maiden, with their cute pointy ears and generous curves, with eyes like precious gems and luminous complexions like sunlight. They are known for having a penchant for spiritual and carnal union with mortal men. In the world of the irresistible vixens, that bevy of elven maidens intent on matrimony, that is surely one of the most tempting temptations that could tempt you. Realizing his error, perhaps, our hero covers his eyes so not to see the mesmerizing curves of his breathtaking pursuers. Into the fringes of Denmark's east he goes, where the land of elven folklore begins to abate, together with all its pointy-eared temptations. Breathing a sigh of relief, our hero stops to rest in the peaceful valley. All at once, a wholesome and pretty young maiden, with an earthy charm and calming demeanor, not even flirting aggressively or attempting to suck on his neck, Baobhan style. No, a breath of fresh air this girl is. So normal, so low-key, most importantly, not supernatural at all. Just a normal Germanic girl, it seems. After a romantic walk or two, things move quickly. Before we know it, the handsome rogue has invited this newfound girlfriend into his humble home. And everything seems to go just fine. At first. Until one fateful day, she has a bit of wardrobe malfunction. Not a bad thing, perhaps, between lovers under ordinary circumstances, but in this case, her tail falls out. For, sadly, our hero's been seduced by a Huldra, a forest spirit who appears to be just a normal young woman, apart from her usually well-concealed tail. Having been tricked into this supernatural seduction once again, our hero promptly ghosts his supernatural sweetheart and takes flight once again into distant lands. Fleeing to the most secluded deep woods he can find, way up there in Sweden, our hero finds a nice isolated little cottage, hiding his handsomeness from any and all females. He's done, my friends, done with all the seduction. He's off the dating market for the foreseeable future. Just going to kick up his heels, kick back in front of the fireplace in the middle of nowhere. But, sadly, high up in Sweden just happens to be the very heart of troll country. Known usually as brutish, violent giants with a penchant for witchcraft. There's an even worse aspect to the troll, at least as far as our handsome hero is concerned. There are female trolls, you see, and they are known for their big appetites. And we don't only mean food. They are strong, healthy girls, big, and they always get their man, if you know what I mean. Either by picking him up and throwing him over their shoulders, or through the powerful magical spells and charms that trolls the world over are known for. So, in a worse place than ever before, in fact, our handsome rogue needs to not only dodge women whose thighs could probably choke them to death, but who could also cast a love charm on them any minute, and so render them the literal love slave of an amorous troll. What's to do but run, running as fast as he can, away from troll country. our hero lands himself in Poland, where folklore is entirely different from that of Britain or Scandinavia. No fairies crushing on you from behind a toadstool. No big, strapping troll ladies chasing you with clubs. Lovely, right? Well, sadly, Poland is in fact the home of maybe the most sinister seductress in all of folklore. The Striga. She is a female vampire of immense spiritual power, said to be former witches who died and retained their power unto death. Formed from dark pacts with evil spirits, they are known to irresistibly seduce young men and spend an eternity as their lovers, feeding off their blood and life force, killing them and reviving them again and again so they can be forever nourished by that meal. With a legit male harem of such love slaves, the Striga gathers together all this blood and life force power to grow into an all-powerful and eternal being. Beings of the night, no handsome man is safe when night falls. And so as night falls in medieval Poland, he may notice an interested glance from a mysterious female form with a rather goth fashion statement, it's true, standing oddly on the fringes of the graveyard round about midnight. And sensing that familiar vibe of feminine over-interest, our handsome rogue hoists up above his head the cross which he wears around his neck, shouting, "Flee from this chaste young man, foul seductress of the night!" And so he darts with all speed up the highest mountain. For here, up in the clouds, surely no supernatural temptresses await. Well, he'd be wrong. Predictably, our celibate young stallion has not escaped the femme fatales. For, in the Slavic nations such as Poland, there are women of folklore who live among the clouds. The Vila, similar to the Valkyries of Norse mythology, are sky-dwelling female warriors, whose power and beauty are almost godlike. Living in castles that sit upon the clouds, they can see all that happens on the earth below. More powerful, therefore, than any of the other female spirits of folklore that he has encountered so far, these are women that could literally have any man that tickles their fancy. One famous tale of the Vila from folklore tells of a radiant Vila of the mountains, ethereal and fierce, who ensnared the heart of a Serbian king with her beauty and enchantment. Drawn by her unearthly grace, the king took her as his wife, and together they had a son, a child of both mortal and fey blood. But the Vila, bound to the wild and free as nature, could not remain among men. One day she vanished into the wild, returning to the forests and peaks, and to the clouds, leaving behind her son, who carried both the strength of kings and the magic of the Vila in his veins. The actual history of Serbia still insists that this is how it all went down. So, if bagging a king is all in a day's work for the voluptuous Vila vixens, what chance has our handsome rogue? And so, his choose-your-own adventure along love's winding road comes to an end in a new marital bed high above the clouds, in the new cloud-born castle he now calls home with his lovely new Vila wife. So, which would you choose as your mate, out of all the seductresses of this, the authentic folklore of Europe? The charming fairy girls? The gorgeous, pointy-eared elven maidens? The freaky femme fatales of the Swedish forests? The voluptuous Vila vixens? Or just a girl with some nice tail? Well, regardless of personal tastes, keep an eye on those toadstools, gentlemen, if you just happen to be walking through the fairy woods one magical evening in the Scottish Highlands, or on that lovely Norwegian holiday to see the scenic and secluded fjords. Because you never know when seduction might rear its ugly head. Well, that just about wraps up tonight's tale from Lorehound. Join us as we sniff out more of history's most interesting stories.
As the hound dog entered the dimly lit library, he sensed an aura of mystery surrounding the ancient The dusty shelves towered above him as he sniffed his way through the labyrinth of books. Suddenly, he picked up a scent and followed it to a secluded corner. With bated breath, he approached the shelf and pawed at the book, revealing the hidden scroll. As he rolled it out, he knew he had discovered a treasure worth protecting at all costs.